Elysian Acoustics, boy do I love this brand. I gave a really good review to the Diva, which is still one of my most favorite sets till today. I have the Annihilator, really good as well, a review of that one coming soon. And now, the new Gaia, in collaboration with Effect Audio. Hey friends, Tim here, welcome back to another video on Giz Audio, and today we have the Gaia review and comparison to the Monarch MK2, the Diva, the Annihilator, and somewhat the V16. Let's first start off with the overall sound signature. For me, I find the Gaia to have probably the most versatile signature that I've ever heard, while at the same time not falling into the pit of being boring or too safe like a lot of IEMs can be. For example, the U12T, amazing tuning, love it, but very safe and can sometimes come across as boring. The IEM, same story, really good, but again, very safe. The V16, awesome, jack of all trades IEM, a little too safe and uninspiring for me. The Gaia is just as versatile as all of those IEMs. It plays every genre relatively well. It's a jack of all trades, but it's also unique at the same time. Now, before we jump into more comparisons, let's first describe the sound, what you're gonna get with the Gaia. Now, the bass department is probably gonna be a favorite for a lot of people because you do get a lot of bass here, sub bass and mid bass, and clean at that. The mid bass is a lot, is punchy, is powerful, but is so clean, well separated from the lower mid-range, so vocals and instruments don't have this kind of warmth or muddiness to them. You get all the bass you want as a bass lover without the sacrifice of, again, the mud, the bloats, etc. Now, the only downside to having this much amount of mid bass is the sense of openness to the mid-range is slightly bit hindered. Everything feels a little bit more, I wouldn't want to call it congested because it's not congested, but it's not as open as you can have if the mid-bass was tucked back a little bit. The mid-range, namely the upper mid-range, is quite elevated, so female vocals, male vocals, and instruments that live in this area are gonna feel more forward and more lively. Now, normally an elevated upper mid-range can be shouty, can be peaky, but on the Gaia, it's not. It's elevated in a way that keeps everything smooth. It doesn't have any weird peaks or oddities in the elevation at all. So vocals, though forward, it's never shouty or never strange in the timbre in any way. And one more thing in regards to the vocals is that they're all really well extended. Nothing feels chopped off too early or roll off too early. Nothing feels like it lost some energy. No, it has a ton of energy that extends well into the treble area, which leads us to the treble, right? The treble on this is a lot. It's sparkly, it's well extended, and it has quite a lot of air as well. Now, the air regions can potentially be troublesome for some of you guys who are extra sensitive. Cymbals, for me, can come across a little bit too forward at times. I wouldn't say it comes across very sharp or anything, but it's just a little bit too forward, slightly bit too unnatural for my liking on selective songs. But for those of you who are not as sensitive as I am, you're not gonna find this to be a bother at all. And having said that, this is a minor nitpick at best. Now, in summary, the Gaia's tuning is, again, very versatile. The mid-bass allows it to play pretty much any genre really well. The elevated upper mid-range makes it so that vocals and instruments are as lively as they could be. The treble area give you all the details and sparkle that you want. It is, again, a true versatile IEM that plays everything well, while at the same time being exciting. Now, there is a con to this kind of tuning. There's a con to every kind of tuning, is that it can be too aggressive of a signature for those of you looking for something more neutral or maybe something more laid back. The Gaia is, again, very fun, but it's also quite in your face at the same time. It's done well, it's balanced well, it's just not a type of IEM you would associate with laid back or loungy type of listen. It's more like you're going clubbing type of listen. Now, there are more trade-offs to the Gaia's type of tuning, but it's better explained with comparisons to other IEMs, so let's jump into that. First comparison is with the Monarch MK2. Now, these two are fairly balanced for their own respective signature. The Monarch MK2 is going to be much more tamer of an option. It has a more natural decay to the vocals and instruments, or more natural timbre, you could say, and the overall signature is just very neutral bass boost, very versatile as well, but not aggressive like the Gaia can be. The Gaia is fun, forward, aggressive, still again very balanced sounding IEM, so it's not overly bassy, it's not overly trebly, it's not overly shouty, it's still balanced, but it is more in your face due to just both the mid bass and the upper mid range being boosted up higher than on the Monarch MK2. Similar versatility, I would say the Gaia is more fun, the Monarch MK2 is more neutral, so it depends on what flavor you want. You would pick either one of those. If you want something more fun, go with the Gaia. If you want something more laid back, more neutral, more natural, then you go with the Monarch MK2. I almost forgot, detail-wise, I'm gonna give the edge to Gaia. Gaia feels more crispy than the Monarch MK2. Just slightly though, not by a huge margin, just slightly. Now, speaking of details, I completely forgot to talk about the technical performance of the Gaia, so let's detour really quickly to talk about that. Now, let's bring up my detail scale right here. The Gaia lands right around near the Annihilator VX. I would say it is endgame level details, same as Monarch MK2, same as Diva, same as, a lot of IEMs that live in this region. Now, the only issue I have when it comes to the Gaia's technical is the perceived sense of stage. Due to how elevated everything is, the mid bass and the upper mid range, it doesn't feel as airy as it can feel. For example, like on the Andromeda 2020, the Annihilator VX, and Annihilator also has more of a perceived head stage than on the Gaia. Back to comparison, next we have the Diva. Now, this is a hot comparison a lot of people want to know, and since I own both, I can give you guys the fair comparison. The Diva is much more open sounding due to how much the mid bass or the bass in general is cut back. Vocals and instruments have more, I would say, room. It doesn't feel as closed in as the Gaia can feel. Now, of course, the trade-off here is you don't get as much mid bass. You don't get as much fun or thumps or slam that the Gaia can deliver, which in turn makes the Diva not nearly as versatile as the Gaia. The Diva for me is a vocal lover's IEM, which for me, I do prefer the Diva for that particular reason, but for a lot of people, the Gaia is gonna be better. It's more versatile, and for those of you who love mid bass and need mid bass, the Gaia is still the one to go for. And last but not least, a comparison to the Annihilator. Now, if you were to take the Gaia's tuning and find which IEM sounds the closest to it, I would say it is the Annihilator. They have very close curve. The Annihilator has even more mid bass, and the treble area are just as aggressive as each other. Same with the upper mids as well. Overall tuning, I do prefer the Gaia's tuning. I always felt like the Annihilator had just too much mid bass for me, a little bit distracted me from the vocals. I'm more of a vocal person. The Gaia executes this area of tuning better to me than on the Annihilator. Now, where the Annihilator takes the win over the Gaia and arguably over the market in general is in the treble area. The Annihilator's treble is just smooth and extending as far as the ears can hear, and the micro details that comes out of the Annihilator is also top notch, and there's no weird peaks of any kind. It's smooth, it's detailed, it's just wonderful, world-class treble. The Gaia is not nearly as smooth as the Annihilator. It has a lot of treble, yes, but the treble quality is not as good as the Annihilator. Now, you don't expect that, of course, because Annihilator is this much and the Gaia is only this much. So if you want the Annihilator's treble, you're still gonna have to cough up the money for it. At the end of the day, if I were to pick between the two for just daily listening, the Annihilator versus the Gaia, honestly, I would pick the Gaia over the Annihilator on most occasions. Unless I really miss how the treble is done on the Annihilator, then I would grab the Annihilator. But the Gaia's tuning is just more pleasant. All right, that's it for the review of the Effect Audio X Elysian Gaia. A really good IEM, big winner in my book. And if you're someone who's looking for an in-game IEM and you want something that works well with every genre while at the same time not ever being boring, then the Gaia is pretty much my #1 recommendation right now. My #1 jack of all trade IEMs by quite a wide margin over the rest of them that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So yes, the Gaia gets a big green thumbs up from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Bye.